So I'm excited because this whole year I am celebrating my 49th year of life. In May of 2026, I turned 49. Very much looking forward to being 50. And the reason is because my mom passed away when she was 49. This was 20 years ago. She passed away when she was 49 of breast cancer. And I am, and the fact that I realized that when she was 49, she was, planning her end. And here I am arriving at 49, and I have so much to be able to look forward to. And so, one of the things that I wanted to do during this 49th year of life is to be able to sit down and have a clear vision for what it is that I want the next 20 years of my life to look like. So that by the time May 21st, 2027 comes around and I turn 50 years old, I will be very clear on what my instructions are, what I'm supposed to be doing, where I'm headed, all of those things. And so today, what I'm doing with my videos is to be able to look at all of the different things that have sort of supported me over the years. And of course, journaling has been one of them. Um, if you're not familiar with me and my story, my name is Halona Black. I left the United States in 2018. Since then, I've traveled around to about 10 different countries. I'm currently living in Mexico. Um, and I am looking forward to creating the creative space of my dreams in Guanajuato, Mexico, once I'm able to move there. I'm currently living in Playa del Carmen. I'm a writer. I write for a living. I do ghostwriting, as well as keep a Substack called Wealthy, Wise, and Whole, where I have a community of writers, of journal writers, people who write essays, as well as memoirs. Sometimes I do support people with their memoirs and other things that they want to be able to write, and I do teach writing classes from time to time. But today I wanted to focus on memoir writing, not memoir, journal writing and what that looks like. And particularly how it has helped me to move my life forward during the last 8 years of travel. Um, and so almost daily journeying has really helped me to um, be able to sit down and process grief. I really think that that's a process that a lot of us are missing, particularly as Americans, because we're so focused on being productive. Um, One of the things that I had to learn how to be able to grieve was thinking that my life was going to be one way. And when that didn't come true, I really felt like I was a failure. I felt um, like I had done things wrong. When really I just sort of realized that I didn't really want those things anyway. I think a lot of us, we get on the treadmill of wanting to be, maybe what your parents said that you were supposed to be, um, maybe what your religion says that you were supposed to be, what you learned in school, that, people told you what you were supposed to be there. And then you just wind up getting on this whole treadmill towards a life and you're building things that you realize you didn't really want. So for example, I got married quite young. I got married in my early 20s. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in my early 20s. Um, Wound up meeting a young man where I lived in Togo, and we got married, came back to the United States, and we were married for 8 years, and it did not work out. Um, and the grief from that particular relationship sort of led me to get into another relationship that I really had no business being in. I really had no business being in either one of those relationships. Um, but uh, just for me, the pattern of the failed relationships was something that I had to stop and take a look at, and journaling helped me to do that. And of course, it wasn't just the journaling; it was the journaling coupled with um, getting support from coaches and therapists and um, all sorts of other people. I've worked with shamans and things like that to be able to support me in sort of grieving all of the stuff that didn't work out so that I can make room, make space for new visions, for new things that I wanted to do. What do you actually even like? You know, sometimes I think for a lot of us, we hold on to the thing that we don't actually want because we have nothing else to be able to put there. And that space of not knowing is really scary for a lot of people. I know that it was for me. And so we feel like, well, it's better for me to be holding on to something than to be able to um, for the point of posturing to other people and saying that, well, me holding on to this thing is better than having nothing. Having a husband is better than having no husband. It's better for me to know where it is that I'm going home to every day um, than to go to an empty house where I'm just going to be faced with my own thoughts. Um, and none of that I've learned over time that none of that is actually true. That it's better to be in a space of not knowing. As a matter of fact, not knowing is actually quite fun. I look at it as it's an opportunity for you to be able to get to know, to be able to get to know yourself, to be able to understand who you are, to be able to get closer to God, if that's what it is that you want to be able to use, if that's the language you want to be able to use, to God, to the universe, to be able to get closer to what it is that your vision, your purpose is supposed to be in life. What were you called here to be able to do? Which means that you can go out and experiment. You can try things on. You know, it's like going to the store, and if you had an unlimited amount of cash and you walk into Nordstrom's and you just start pulling stuff off of the shelf, because you can go to a lot of these higher end stores, and you can get yourself a buyer, and they can help you try on things. They go out and they bring you tea or coffee or whatever. They might bring you some little snacks, and they help you try things on. They give you suggestions about what it is like. Just that's how I think about it now in my life. When there's something that I don't know and I don't understand, instead of looking at it as, oh my God, I'm failing because I don't know what the next step is, I look at it as I have the whole world open to me right now. I have the whole world open to me right now, and I can literally make this anything that I wanted to do, which means that I can try things on. I can be as crazy as I wanted to be, which is really what I did when I packed up and I moved overseas. I had no idea what the hell I was getting into. I moved to Asia, not I didn't even think when I moved to Asia. I moved to Thailand first. I went to Dubai for some days, and then I went to Thailand. Had never been to Thailand and never known anybody who had gone to Thailand or had an interest in going to Thailand. Um, and so I didn't really know what to expect, what I was going to find there, what was going to be my plan. I just wanted to be able to go. I said I would go for 3 months. We'll check it out, and then we can come home, and then I can get back to the business of whatever my life was supposed to be. I can do my life for real. And of course, I got to Thailand, and to be honest with you, I have not been back to the States, except for a short visit that I did towards the end of the pandemic. I went home for 30 days to visit my family to make sure that everybody was good, did some shopping, and I left right back out. I have not been back to the United States really in 8 years. And I don't feel bad about it. And that was not really on my list of things to do. but, traveling the world and seeing the world, that had always been a an interest of mine. It would had always been a thing that I wanted to do, but to stay permanently gone and to just hop from one country to another, in my head, that was something that rich people did. And I've never been rich. Will be rich one day. But at that point, I had never been rich. And so how in the world was I supposed to be able to afford the opportunity to be able to go overseas? And so I figured that out. As a writer, I was able to take my writing business with me, took myself overseas. I had a few clients that I had been able um, to be able to keep while traveling because all of my work was done online. And it was just really nice to be able to move to a place where I had space to be able to think about um, what it is that I needed to let go of, offer myself an opportunity and space to be able to grieve that thing and to be able to make room to try on new things. And this has literally taken months at a time to be able to do these things in small increments. There was no rush. If we think about it, when there's a thing you have to grieve when you're at home in the States, let's say you lose a loved one, you lose your mom, a sibling, hell, your dog, and you're at work. If it's somebody that's close to you, they often, they give you a certain amount of time. What did they give you? Maybe a week. If you have that type of a job where they might give you a week if the person is close to you. And even still, like if it's a loss of a close friend or something, they're not going to give you any time off to be able to grieve your friend. That's absolutely unheard of, unless you're taking one of your own personal paid days off if you have any, or if you're even lucky to be able to have a job that offers that sort of a benefit. Um, so that's important to be able to think about. A lot of times you don't have the space to be able to grieve things. And so what we wind up doing is we wind up uh, running right over it. But in the running right over it, you hold all of that grief I've learned in your body. And that was one of the reasons why I had gained so much weight over time, because there were so many things that I was grieving, that I was holding on to in my body. It didn't matter that I had learned how to be able to eat, and I would lose a little bit of weight here and there. At one point, I had gained up to had weighed a little bit over 300 pounds, and it didn't really matter that I had learned all the stuff about how to be a how to be a raw foodist, or how to eat vegan food, or I learned how to be able to cook and how to do all of those things. There would be times where I would lose some pounds, but then the slightest bit of stress would just send me back into my old patterns of doing what I knew to do to be able to soothe myself. And so journaling really became a space for me to be able to sit down and um, to be able to organize my thoughts and to be able to express myself on paper, how this particular grief was showing up, to be able to put a name to the thing that I needed to be able to grieve. Um, those, life in the States doesn't really allow you space to do that. And so journaling became um, the space for me to be able to figure all that stuff out. And so as a result of that, I've lost about 100 pounds. I've been able to heal myself from fibroids, anxiety, and a whole host of other health issues that I have been able to release and maintain the release of. And I love that. And so now, looking forward, because I'm very clear on where it is that I have been, because I've been able to write these things down. Looking forward, now I'm in a different space. I've very clearly entered the space of perimenopause, and this is a different thing. This is a whole different thing. I actually did a half marathon about a year and a half ago. But yeah, about a year and a half ago now. And that came from, of course, being 300 pounds and barely having the energy to walk anywhere, to being able to do a half a marathon is absolutely phenomenal for me. Um, but looking forward, I would love to be able to do another half marathon. And like I would be able, I need to, what I learned from doing that first half marathon is that I need to be stronger. I need to build more muscle because I'm learning as you get older. The muscle that you had in your body just sort of elects to leave you. If you don't maintain it, it will leave you. And so, whereas over the years, I focused more on cardio stuff to be able to help me to lose fat and to lose weight. Now I understand that it's really important as you get older to be able to maintain muscle. Um, and the muscle will actually help me to be a better runner, particularly as it pertains to my legs. And so, in as I'm building my vision for the next 20 years of my life, it's very important that I have a body that maintains my ability to travel. Me being a traveler is not going to stop just because I get a little bit older. As a matter of fact, I want to be able to pick it up. I've been, while I've lived in 10 countries in the last 8 years, I've probably been to, visited maybe about 20 countries in my whole life. And there's 195 countries. I think it's about 195 countries in the world. And I want to see, if I can't see all of them, I want to see as many as possible. That's something that's very important to me. I love travel. I love culture. Love meeting people. I love learning new foods and learning about people's ways of living and learning about different ways of how, what are the cultural ways that people use to be able to heal themselves. That I'm just very curious about that. Um, and I like to be able to see it myself. It's one thing, to watch it on YouTube or to read about it somewhere, but it's a totally different thing to be able to experience for yourself to when you actually go to the country. And I want to be able to do more of that. And I'm very clear that in order for me to do that, I have to have a body who can uphold that sort of a life. Because travel, you got to carry bags, you got to sit on airplanes for long amounts of time. And I have to work. I still have to work. Um, and you need energy for that. You need stamina. You need to be able to hold yourself together. And so journaling has helped me to realize that I am an athlete. And so I'm building my vision for what being an athlete looks like for me. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to walk. I was thinking, I have a friend who likes to ride bikes. I don't know if I'll ever do like a biking race, but just to be able to bike or to be able to roller skate, um, just I don't know, to something to be able to mix it up, to be able to do different types of athletic things. I want to be able to figure out what that looks like. And so, I don't have anything, nothing else is really outside of the running and walking. I don't really have anything else that's screaming right now that says I wanted to. Maybe, hiking, trail hiking. When once I'm able to move to Guanajuato, there's a chain of mountains there that is quite popular with other Mexican people to be able to hike. Um, And so, hiking, walking, running, doing those sorts of things. But other types of sports, I'm not sure. Martial arts, maybe. What does the athletic Halana look like? I'm using journaling to be able to figure that out, to figure out what that might be. What does it feel like to sort of sit in my head and to be able to write about what that might look like? So that was point number one. When you journal, it helped me to process grief and to be able to create a new vision for what it is that I want my body to do. The next thing, journaling, has helped me to do as far as my well-being is concerned. Um, it has helped me with burnout, corporate burnout. It's helped me to regulate my nervous system. So um, I had a 12-year career in international education. I went to grad school for international education um, at the University of Massachusetts, and I wound up in various ways. I've worked in teaching adults how to read so that they can, get jobs and hopefully move up the career ladder at some point. I've managed job training programs. I've developed curriculum in different countries for adult learners. Um, I've done a number of things. I've worked in higher education in colleges, 4-year colleges, as well as 2-year colleges. And the last job that I had, I was actually let go from. Um, and of course there was, a certain amount of extreme burnout from that particular job. My God, today I don't even have time to even go into what that even looked like. Um, but you know how you feel when you're burnt out. You're just sort of over it. You're over everybody. Um, while at one point in time, that career ladder looked interesting to me. There was a point where I got to stop and ask myself, look at the people who are around you. Look at these people and think about, are these type of people even people that you want to be like? Do you want these people to be your colleagues? And by, I'm thinking about the higher ups in particular, not necessarily my immediate colleagues. But do you want to be like them? And I had to be honest with myself in this conversation with myself through journaling. My answer was no. My answer was no. So once again, I was sort of left with this. I was kind of left with this feeling of not knowing. And at that particular time, that feeling of not knowing what job I was supposed to go to, that is something that, you know, that rattled my nervous system so hard. I even remember in the weeks sort of leading up to me being let go from my job, um, I remember that it's just that, like there's a vice on your heart and your lungs that won't let go. It grabs hold of you so tight that you can't function. You can't sleep. There was times that I would cry. I would cry leaving the job on Friday because I knew I would have to come back on Monday. It was crazy. But at the same time, I was afraid to let it go because I had no idea of what, like, if I left, if I voluntarily left, or they threw me out the door, what the hell was I going to do? Like, I had some visions in my head of things that might be fun to do, but to actually follow through on it is a totally different thing. Um, and so that's one of the reasons that I had to learn, and that I think that was probably around the time that I started to take journaling a little more seriously. So this was, I don't know how long ago was this? Maybe 15 years ago. I started to take journaling a little bit more seriously. Like, I had always had journals around, um, but it was around that time when I started to take journaling a little more seriously because it just gave me a place to be able to, forgive the expression, but to vomit on the page. Um, my tears and what I was feeling, and to vent uh, what it is that I was feeling and what was in my head because it had no place to go. It was just, like there was just so much confusion and rage just sort of circulating through my body all of the time. It just needed someplace else to go. So um, being burnt out from work, um, I'm not saying it'll completely solve the problem, but it at least gives you a space. Journaling gives you a space to be able to express what your burnout looks and feels like. And so when if you're looking for other types of support, again, through coaches, therapists, shamans, if that is your deal, because it is mine, um, you have something to work with instead of just getting on the phone or falling out on the couch and just saying you have nothing. You don't know where to even begin. You've got somewhere to begin. You begin with your journals. um, and so journaling from that standpoint, from healing from corporate burnout, um, was really just helpful. It was a helpful way. It's a great way to be able to cope with what it is that you are going through, and to be able to put a name, to put words to how it is that you feel without any judgment, without making you or anybody else wrong. Um, it's a great place for you to be able to speak without any judgment, and you speak with yourself first before you go to an outsider to get their opinions on what's happening. And really over time, I started to learn that, my own thoughts about who I am and what I'm feeling is what matters primarily. And to be able to design my life around that first, that processing, that um, to be able to have space, to be able to have space to allow things to just live, to exist. And then you start to process grief and your burnout. Um, and then to be able to create a vision for what it is that you want to do, to be able to have next. Um, so yeah, journaling has really helped me to process burnout. Finally, let's see, the third way that journaling has really supported me, and it has really helped me to raise my own sense of self-esteem, my own sense of self-love. It has upped my vision for what self-care looks like. Um, and as a result of that, it has given me the confidence to be able to ask for more, particularly as it comes to money. I'll be honest with you. When I started my writing business, I've had this writing business maybe about um, 11 years now. And when I started writing, I would write for anybody who would give me anything. So I was on all of the freelance sites. You know what they are. all the freelance sites. Child, I was writing stuff for $10, $9, $25. You know, if I found one that was paying $25, child, we were making it. Because in my head, if I could just make $100, if I could just make $100, um, then it was a good work day. Never mind the fact that you have to pay taxes and you've got other, bills and tools and things for all your online tools that you have to use to be able to keep your business. You got your email, your accounting stuff, uh, you know, bank stuff, and um, your phone bill, your internet bill. Like you got bills, right? Um, and so I didn't really like I that didn't click for me. I was still thinking I wasn't connecting those charges, those the cost of doing business. I wasn't really putting that into how people paid me because I had never sat down. Like I'd never talked to people like that. I had only spoken to people as a as an employee. And so what I had to learn is I had to have a greater sense of self so that I could learn um, that as a business owner, I am being paid to solve a problem for another business. That's a complete mind shift for me. It was at the time. It was a very big mind shift for me, and it took me a couple of years to be able to learn that. And as a person who is solving a problem for a business, um, you have to think of yourself in higher esteem. You don't want them to look at you as an employee that they have to run around and manage. They really expect from me as a writer to be able to come in and solve the problem. So what I was doing as a writer was I was writing marketing materials. So that was white papers, customer case studies, blog posts, um, sales emails, um, website copy, all sorts of stuff, sales pages, all sorts of things. And I was writing there, Emmy and everything. that you got was uh, ghostwriting full books for people. And so I had to learn how to be able to ask for more so that I can create a um, a foundation for a business that would allow me to continue to function where to be able to function in a way that I didn't feel like I was always straining. I felt like I was always, as they say, rocking Peter to pay Paul. Um, and I couldn't do that. If your business is going to be sustainable, you have to ask for more money, but you have to believe that you're worth more money in order to do that. And so journaling has helped me to create a greater sense of self-love for myself by reflecting back to me the life that I had and where it is that I wanted to be. And, I started to get around other people who had businesses who were way more successful than I had even dreamed for myself. And I started to learn what was really possible for myself. And this is really just all from journaling. Journaling is such an easy process um, to be able to get yourself into. You don't need a whole lot to be able to journal. You can just start off with, your basic, you can go to the dollar store and get yourself a little notebook and journal. It's cute if you can get one of those fancy, um, those fancy journals with the leather cover and it's got ribbons on it and, it's got stuff written on the front and, it's maybe it'll have some journaling questions on the inside, but really you don't even need all that. You can just start with the basic notebook from the dollar store and a pen. That's really all that you need. Um, and so in doing that, and writing things down, and you're processing what it is that you want to be and who it is that what you want to be, who it is you want to meet, and all those sorts of questions. You also start to create it's a word that I want to use. You create a record of the shifts in your own consciousness over time. So you start to recognize patterns. You start to see what it is that you do like. Because I meet women all the time, who are going through some sort of a shift. Their children are getting older. Perhaps they're going through a divorce or they've lost their spouse. Um, right now with AI, everybody has lost their job. Whatever you thought your work was, and if you thought it was stable, it is not. It's just not. Everybody is in a state of flux right now. Everything is changing. And so people are asking me questions about what their role is. And if you're a person who has spent most of your life connecting yourself to a job title or being the big wig in a particular industry, or even if you were just hiding in the back somewhere and you realize, whatever you felt was stability no longer exists. And so you're trying to figure out, all right, well, what do I like? What do I want to do? And people are figuring out, well, hell, if the regular stuff that I was doing and I didn't even love it isn't working out, well, maybe I should lean into what it is that I really do love. And so I am grateful that I caught onto that wind some years before all of this, the AI stuff sort of came into being. But if you're one of those people who just sort of feels like you're being hit with a brick today, you can still start. You can still start the journaling process, and you'll start to notice patterns in your thinking about the things that you're excited about. Journaling and meditation for me are two things that go together, because it requires that you sit still and sort of check in with yourself. And there are ways for me to be able to stop and think and to be able to check in with myself, um, and ask what's going on in my body. As a matter of fact, I open some of my journaling sessions with a meditation session, just a quick, not even quick. Sometimes it'll be 5 minutes, other times it'll be 30 minutes, but just some time for myself to be able to ask myself questions about what am I feeling in this moment? Where is the tension in my body? And oftentimes I figure that I'm holding stress in my body around my neck and shoulders, because I tend to do a lot of this sitting at my desk and I do it unconsciously. Um, and so when you making yourself conscious of what all of that stress is, there are also points where you start to become more conscious of why that stress and tension is there. Where is it coming from? What were you thinking about? And that you journal about that stress that's causing you, your back pain. What is your back pain telling you? It's not just a physical thing that is existing. There's a reason that you have pain in your back, or your muscles in your legs are you get Charlie horses all of the time in one particular area of your legs. There's a reason that you have headaches. Um, there's a reason that during certain parts of the day you might want to stuff yourself with, things from the the vending machine at a certain hour of the day. Why are you doing that instead of just choosing something else, something that's healthier for you? All of those things sort of became journaling questions for me. And in having these conversations with myself, it allowed me space to be able to express and to be able to learn eventually how to be able to make a different decision, a new decision that will lead me into a new life instead of making the same damn decisions that I've been doing for literally 40 years. And so that is why it's so important for me now to take year 49 and to be able to review the last decade of my life, because I have made so many wonderful changes. Just a few of them I have described here with you today in this video. But I have made so many turns in my life that have led me to a different place than I was when I was 41 years of age. And I want to be able to greet 50 years of age, knowing that um, feeling confident about where it is that I'm going and the vision that I have for myself over the next 20 years. And I would love for you to be able to do the same thing. So if this was interesting to you, I want you to know I do have a Substack. I don't know if I mentioned that in the beginning. I can't remember. But in Substack, it's a newsletter. It's called Wealthy, Wise, and Whole. Um, I share talks, I share essays about um, what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, my travel plans, um, my art plans, that sort of thing. And within that, I have sort of this ongoing series that offers you an opportunity to be able to participate in your own journaling session. I call it Discovering Yourself in Midlife. Um, all you got to do is subscribe. You'll get that to your email um, once a week. So those are, you get your own journaling pages, you get that. And I do that, let's see. Right now, I'm doing it like every 2 to 3 weeks. So you get a couple, generally a couple in a month. But I'm making room to be able to do this on a weekly basis because I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it, and I like the feedback that I get from people saying that the stories and the journaling prompts are helping people to be able to move them forward. So you can join me there. I keep the link in the description box, so you can also just check out the comment box there. So thanks so much for hanging out with me. I don't know how long this video was, but I appreciate you being here. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.